Hey, Patrick.
Hey, Michael J.
So, there's a lot of new and new-ish cards to talk about this week. Like, very lots of cards, I think. Very.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to get pulled back into Very Cryptic Command, the unstable card that we previewed a few weeks ago. But I couldn't help but notice the interaction it has with a new card from Unstable that was spoiled a couple days ago. Very Cryptic Command. It's 1 blue, blue, blue for an instant. Choose 2, scry 3, create a 2/2 black rogue creature token with menace. Add or subtract 1 or the word 1 from a number or number word on target spell or permanent until end of turn. Return all artifacts target player controls to their owner's hand.
Well, hold on a second, Patrick. This seems to have the same name as the card that you and I previewed, but that's nothing like the card I saw. I saw one called Very Cryptic Command that's 1 U, choose 2, but it's return target permanent to its owner's hand, I'm down with that. That's a Very Cryptic Command thing to do. Draw 2 cards, then discard a card. Well, that seems a little upgrade-ish, right? Change the target of target spell with a single target. It's a little deflection action. Or turn over target non-token creature. That's completely different than what you're saying.
You got to consider how that one plays with Very Cryptic Command, which is 1 blue, 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 instant, choose 2. Switch target creature's power and toughness until end of turn. Target creature can't be blocked this turn. Draw a card if that card's art is by Wayne England. You may reveal it and draw another card. Or assemble a contraption.
Patrick, that's ridiculous. Because I've seen a card called Very Cryptic Command that's 1 blue, 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 choose 2, draw a card from an opponent's library, copy target instant or sorcery spell. You may choose new targets for the copy. Until end of turn, target creature loses all abilities and becomes a blue frog with base power and toughness of 1/1. Or create a 1/1 colorless gnome artifact creature token. They can't all be Very Cryptic Command, can they?
Who even knows if this is the end of it? But yeah, there's some rumors, like there's some people who are suggesting that they might be randomized, but I think they've got to be all different. Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe they're two-sided. I don't know. Right, is this 6?
That's 5.
5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then ours is 5. Yeah, there's one of them has different art, right? So the one that you referenced that you can draw an extra card if you drew a card with a picture by Wayne England is actually illustrated by Wayne England. The rest of them have the same art that we had, which was by Zoltan Boros.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, it's confusing how this is really going to end up working, but so far they've all looked different. I know that it's caused some interesting challenges for internet dealers. Like for instance, with Star City Games, what happens when somebody places a pre-order? And they already clarified that they're going to just that it's, I guess, the first one until there's some amount of clarity about how this even works. And a set is going to include all of them. There's been a ruling already that you can only play with 1 Very Cryptic Command total in a commander deck.
So you can't play like one of every different style. It's just 1 total.
No, because in Commander, your cards are apparently... Because it's Highlander, you can only play with 1 card of each name. In its English translation. Man, so... I guess it's also funny. They all have the same set number and the same name. Most of them have the same art, I guess, but they definitely... You can only play 4 total, but I guess also if you're playing Unglued or Unhinged or Unstable, then who even knows what the rules are?
Thank God, right? Like this, isn't a card that is intended for tournament play, right? So silver bordered, unstable card, not tournament play. Can you imagine somebody, especially if they're playing in a different language, asking for the oracle text of Very Cryptic Command in a tournament environment? Like, it's got to be rough for the judge.
So yeah. I mean, you can kind of show and ask, like, what are the other abilities on this card? But there's also previews. There are also spoilers for slightly less unstable of cards.
So slightly more relevant to competitive tournament play, but in some cases only very slightly more relevant.
Yeah, so we did get a few previews from Rivals of Ixalan. I'm wondering how relevant you think Brass's Bounty is, which is 6 in a red, sorcery. For each land you control, create a colorless treasure artifact token with all the usual. So it's just 6 in a red, get a treasure for each land you control.
So this is a really interesting card, actually. So I'll reserve my final rating about its playability and constructed for a minute or so, but it has some pull and push to it that I think, at least gets the mental juices flowing. For one thing, it's 7 mana, right? So that's a pretty expensive card, but it actually has potentially a really powerful ability, right? So at the same time, if it's like, all right, so a card that costs 7 mana, how many lands do I have in play? Probably, if I'm going to cast a 7, it's probably 7 or more. But this actually has a built-in safety valve, right? Like, if you cheat Brass's Bounty out, it's not like you get an outsized number of treasures. In fact, you'll get fewer treasures. So, like if you had a bunch of rituals or something, like you might only have 2 lands in play. End of the day, I don't think this card is very likely to be competing with tournament caliber 7s in standard, i.e. Approach of the Second Sun or Nicol Bolas, or probably, in fact, sorceries that cost less than 7. But I think it is still cool to think about. Like, there are a lot of situations where you might want to get a lot of treasure. You're putting a down payment on something. You can do a big X later. Getting a lot of treasures in play might be really valuable. Let's say if you've already got a Marionette Master, right? Like, just getting treasures. Oh, boom! You might have an awesome situation there. But I think that 7 mana is a lot to ask, even for a powerful ability like this.
Well, yeah. So I mean, if you have a Marionette Master in play, it's 21, right?
Yeah. It's just straight up like, a big game there.
Wait, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's each one is 3 damage, right? Well, I mean, I don't know. It depends on how big the Marionette Master is, I think.
Yeah, but in general, it's going to be about 21.
Yeah.
And that's if you go 6 to 7. Another possibility is if you have Revel in Riches, which is 4 and a black enchantment. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, create a colorless treasure artifact token. And at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 10 or more treasures, you win the game. So, you need 3 treasures from somewhere else, unless you have more than 7 land. But, that gets you a lot of the way towards your Revel in Riches, right?
Yeah, that's a really powerful interaction. I mean, I'm not so sure about the viability of just resolving certain of these really expensive cards, but I always try to take a second glance at any cards that say win the game on them. Maybe we can create a context where cards that might otherwise be difficult to set up, there's an incentive. Approach of the Second Sun's a really good example, right? That's a card that maybe on first blush you're like, oh, this is kind of a little contrived, but it's ended up being a viable strategy based around slowing down opponent offenses or just casting big cards in long games and situations where the opponent doesn't have permission spells, right? So maybe Brass's Bounty and Revel in Riches can be best buddies. I don't know. This isn't a powerful ability, right? It's almost just kind of washes itself out. If you have 7 lands exactly in play and you're tapping out 7 to cast Brass's Bounty, you're just getting 7 mana right back, but you're not just getting 7 mana, you're getting like 7 mana and optionality. For example, if you have a treasure map in your deck, right, and you flip it over, like those can become card drawing, right, in the future. Or if you've got Captain Lannery Storm, they can become damage. So
you have Ruthless Knave. Ruthless Knave, every 3 treasures you sacrifice, you draw a card. No mana paid or needed.
So I think that there are a lot of, interesting things that you can do with it. And the card itself is powerful, right? It has an ability that at the right cost or in the right context you might want to do. I think that it's tough because this is a card that does a powerful thing but doesn't really win the game. And it's competing with cards of similar cost that can win the game much more, much more intuitively.
Yeah, but there is still the 6 into 7 thing with the Marionette Master is, it raises an eyebrow.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I wonder how many different little, sideways combos you need. Because if you've got, enough stuff like Captain Lannery Storm or any kind of other, when artifacts come into play or when artifacts leave, if you have any of that kind of stuff, it's, potentially interacts with that. So it's going to be something I think we would need to see a couple more powerful interactions in this next set to pull it off. So I think I agree with you, but it's definitely one to keep an eye on. You can't really rule it out till you know all the cards they could interact with.
Yeah, because it is a big thing, right? So a lot of the time you'll look at cards and you're just going to say that's too expensive, or maybe you won't, but the average player will be like, that's too expensive. But a different question is, would I want this if I got it in a different context? I think that there are other expensive cards that have been spoiled from Rivals of Ixalan this week that maybe we can't put that there, right? That maybe there's something flashy about them, but there are a lot of really good reasons why they wouldn't be able to compete in the same way that Brass's Bounty maybe would be able to.
There were a couple Planeswalkers revealed too, though.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm going. So I was initially really excited by Vraska Scheming Gorgon. Vraska Scheming Gorgon. I think, personally, I just get excited whenever there's a new Planeswalker to talk about. I just auto love it. But, let's talk about this card and talk about some potential context. So Vraska Scheming Gorgon is joining a different Vraska that's already in Standard. This one is 4 BB, so it's very expensive. It's at 6 mana, but only a single color. Legendary Planeswalker Vraska, and it has 3 abilities. The first one is +2. Creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. The second one is -3, destroy target creature. And the third one is -10. Until end of turn, creatures you control gain death touch, and whenever this creature deals damage to an opponent, that player loses the game. Starting loyalty of 5.
Yeah, this just is so... this is one of the theme deck cards, and these Planeswalkers, well... some versions have shown up before of these. They don't have great chances. And I think they're also going to be a little more conservative because I think their intent is not to have these showing up. These are just supposed to try to give a little bit of the Planeswalker experience without the busted, overpowered mythic rare that, drowns out a lot of the cards that might appear in a first, in a theme deck. And Vraska as a 6-cost Planeswalker is competing with Vraska, the other 6-cost Planeswalker. And the other Vraska is much better on basically every metric.
So even just starting loyalty, right? So Vraska Scheming Gorgon, the new one, only has 5 starting loyalty, whereas Vraska Relic Seeker has 6 starting loyalty, right? Vraska Scheming Gorgon has -3 destroy target creature, versus Vraska Relic Seeker has destroy target artifact, creature, or enchantment, right? So it has a wider array of things you can destroy. And then in addition, creates a colorless treasure when destroying something. So that's a much more powerful ability for the same loyalty investment. not for nothing, the original Vraska the Unseen also had a -3 as her middle ability, which was destroy target non-land permanent. I guess they're like really bringing up the flavor of previous Vraskas, though.
The +2 to give your creatures +1/+0 until end of turn. Man, that sure does not compete with making a 2/2 pirate with menace.
No, it does not. I mean, just the Vraska Relic Seeker obviously has been such an important contributor to Standard. It's been kind of like buddy with the token strategy, the core black-white token strategy. It's been a great sideboard card for 4-color decks, teamer decks that are splashing black. I just don't see the same kind of legs coming out of Vraska Scheming Gorgon because, man, like that first ability, even though it's giving 2 loyalty, is just not anything a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean, she's not even. It's not like this is like Elspeth or something where she's like making 3/1/1s a turn or something to pump up.
Yeah, it's just sad, right? Like if you don't have a creature in play, your +2 just gains 2 loyalty, but has no other real text. If you compare that to Vraska Relic Seeker, it's actually doing a fair Gideon impression on that.
More than fair.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess it's a pretty awesome 2/2, right? Menace is...
Yeah, plus to have the loyalty going +2 instead of 0. Or plussing, just plussing in general.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Okay.
I would say that this -10 ability is, it's something. It has me reading. The ability to win on the spot is powerful, but just the direct comparison to the other Vraska's -10 is very nearly, an insta-kill also, right? Not exactly, but it's pretty close.
So I want to make sure I understand this correct. You have enough creatures in play that you can get one of them through unmolested. And this is after you've plussed Vraska 3 times without her being hurt at all. You plussed her 3 times, giving all of your creatures +1/+0. And now you have more creatures than your opponent has blockers or removal.
Blockers and removal, Patrick.
Right.
Blockers and removal.
Right. And now you're going to pump your creatures up so that all your creatures are effectively +999.
Yeah. That's what I'm going to do with this creature. Or, I'm sorry, with this planeswalker.
Mm-hmm. Well, Vraska Scheming Gorgon does have at least one thing going for her, which is that Vraska's Scorn can tutor her up. It's 2 black sorcery. Target opponent loses 4 life. And you can also search your library and or graveyard for Vraska Scheming Gorgon, reveal it, and put it into your hand.
If you search your library this way, shuffle it. I love these cards that go in these pre-con decks. I have a different question, right? So, Vraska Scorn, unlikely to be a big contributor to Standard, right? Although, I would point out that there are many contexts where 4 mana for 4 damage, I mean, this is 4 life, which is a little bit different, but 4 mana for 4 damage has been a highly valuable thing that you might want to
Not to face.
Sometimes to face.
4 mana, deal 4? You're talking about like Scorching Missile?
No, I'm talking about like the Convoke one or War Leader's Helix. Those are the ones I...
No, those aren't... That's not about face. That can also hit creatures.
Yeah, I'm just saying 4 mana for 4 damage. Like
it would be a lot different if this was a drain for 4.
All I'm saying is...
Dude, this is... Come on, man.
If this card could search for any Vraska, would it change your mind?
So, like...
Also... Yeah, could get the Relic Seeker, or in another context, get the Unseen.
Like with the same text, but it goes and gets any Vraska.
Any Vraska. It just says Vraska Planeswalker instead of still no.
No. So 4 life. So 2 BB. Target opponent loses 4 life. Draw a card. I'm not in for that. Not in a deck that I mean, there are spots where you could do that. But in general, that doesn't have me like suddenly lining up to do it. But the card isn't even a random card. The card is a Vraska. Now, the real card can only get this Vraska Scheming Gorgon, which is
not an
weaker than a card.
Yeah.
However, even if I could go get the other, it's not like that's the card I always want to draw when I play my 4-mana cantrip. I don't know why I'm playing a 4-mana cantrip for life loss anyway.
Well,
so maybe. I don't know. Maybe, but I don't know, man. If we could go get Gideons, and there were like the other Gideons legal.
Yeah.
Interesting.
All right. So Vraska is not alone, though, right? So Vraska is one half of, I think, a fight that's being set up by these pre-constructed decks. On the other side is a planeswalker named Angrath.
Oh, don't you mean Angrath, Minotaur Pirate?
I do.
A little on the nose there, don't you think?
It's like a real descriptive of Angrath's genetic makeup and occupation.
I want to make sure I understand this correctly. This gentleman is a Minotaur Pirate that has an ability that says return target pirate card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Not creature. It says card. He can't get Angrath, another copy of Angrath Minotaur Pirate back, can he?
No, because Angrath Minotaur Pirate, while claiming to be a pirate, is a legendary planeswalker Angrath.
Who's neither a pirate nor a Minotaur,
Nope.
Despite the lies that he runs.
Neither nor. So this is the first Angrath we've seen, though, right? Like, so we've had a couple of Vraskas before, but this is the first appearance of Angrath. This is its giant size X-Men number 1.
Not really. This is just sort of like a hype video. Angrath's X-Men 1 is coming when they show us what Angrath does.
Okay.
He's going to have a card in this set, and it's going to be dizzy dope.
Well, how about this one? It's not dizzy dope, but controversial opinion here. I think this card is stronger than Vraska Scheming Gorgon.
I mean, I don't know, man. We'll see. It's got more potential. I mean, return target pirate card from your graveyard to the battlefield. We'll have to see what kind of pirates there are, right?
I mean, you could get back Takers, right? Takers are pirates.
And then the AoE damage a turn, that's something.
Yeah, so Angrath's got 3 abilities. He's a 5 starting loyalty at 4 BR, so 6 mana for 5 starting loyalty, which is the same base stats that they gave to Vraska, although he's 2 colors instead of just BB. His first ability is +2. Angrath, Minotaur Pirate, deals 1 damage to target opponent and each creature that player controls. Unlike Vraska, I could actually immediately, my mind is like, oh, I might want this sometimes. This isn't that bad, right? Like this first one, I can imagine wanting this ability.
Sure.
And I can imagine even wanting to play this card in certain sideboard situations, maybe.
I'm betting that the other Angrath will be enough better that it won't really come to that.
Maybe you're right, but I can just imagine if you're playing against, just for sake of argument, you're playing against mono-white vampires or you're playing against black-white tokens, and that's inclusive of the Esper version or the Vraska version. I can imagine wanting a persistent source of things that just kill 1/1s without using a card, right? It's actually building value, and the opponent typically doesn't have haste. It also has additional text against cards like Champion of Wits, right? That it's just doing stuff, and those decks often don't have permission. And I just do this thing, gain some loyalty, keep your lost your Legion's Landings off of my back for a while. And we're gonna keep playing Magic the Gathering.
I'm just saying that I got a feeling that this is indicative of some of Angrath's toolkit, and that he's very likely going to end up being enough better that even if you are generally interested in some of that stuff, that your interest will be diverted when you see the other Angrath. That's my theory. That's my guess.
I might be very willing to subscribe to your newsletter. Sounds okay. But let's go over Angrath's other abilities. So he's got a -3 return target pirate card from your graveyard to the battlefield. We talked about that already. There are some great pirates that you might want to get back. And then finally he has a -11 Destroy all creatures target opponent controls. Angrath Minotaur Pirate deals damage to that player equal to their total power.
So Plague Wind and then also Taste It.
Yeah, but this is like a real specific corner, right? I don't. What are you going to let them like build up a ton of power so that when you destroy all their creatures with your, and you're telegraphing this for what, 4 turns, right? It's 5 to 7 to 9 to 11. Yeah, it's You have to have like, several turns of setup to do this. Like, how is this going to happen, right? Like they're just not going to have that much power. They're not going to play into your, I'm going to make 2 Colossuses and then pass the turn. Like, they're just not going to do that, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't know how much you're even going to... Like, maybe you can, like, chump block sometime. But, it's I think, intended to get the game over with when you're playing, pre-con versus pre-con.
Yeah.
So, so far... I don't think an overwhelming amount of new stuff really,
0 for 3 so far?
What about Swab Goblin, man?
Swab Goblin. In another era, Swab Goblin would have been a 4 of.
Which is the 1 in a red 2/2 Goblin Pirate.
2/2.
I think it out of the new cards from the pre-cons, this one probably has the best chances of getting there.
Yeah, but like I said, 15 years ago, this guy would have been a 4 of. But back then they were playing like goblins that were also 2/2 for 2 but couldn't block, stuff like that. This guy is competing with Earthshaker Kenra and Carry Zev and cards that only cost 1 mana that are higher impact.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
it's a tough time. You'd really have to be in for a Goblin Pirate, like that's kind of what he's got going for him. There were also some interesting decks this past weekend.
Yeah, actually, let's. I do think I want to talk about 1.5 additional cards actually before we
sure.
Go to the decks. Okay, so just to close out the Vraska Scorn sort of aspect of this, there's Angrath's Fury, which is the equivalent card. It's 3 BR. Sorcery, destroy target creature, so it's just a creature removal card at sorcery speed for 5 mana. Angrath's Fury deals 3 damage to target player. You may search your library and or graveyard for a card named Angrath Minotaur Pirate, reveal it, and put it into your hand. If you search your library this way, shuffle it. I'm not saying I'm at the head of the line for this, but I could think about this card, right? It's like a little Blightning-ish. It's a little Annihilate-ish. It's a little, Tutor-ish. It's got enough stuff on it that I'm not going to throw it in the trash heap by it, immediately. Is this insane?
Your question is this insane?
Is my
presumably
position the position of a crazy person?
I'm not one to judge, man. You do you. I see what you like about it. I don't think I would really want to play 5 mana, kill a creature, and deal 3 damage to its owner, or to kill a creature, deal 3 damage to the target player, and draw a card as a sorcery. And this is not just drawing a card; it's drawing a 6-cost Planeswalker that I don't think is worth 6. But I don't think it's completely out of the question. It's just very, very fringe.
Very specific, right? So I'll just tell you...
Very unlikely.
I'll tell you why I'm not just throwing it in the garbage heap. Although...
Why does that have to be the dichotomy? Not everything has to be about the garbage heap, man. Why throw anything in the garbage heap?
I'll tell you why I'm bothering to think about this a little bit, if that's terminology that is more palatable.
I would think about everything. Why not?
You and I have both played cards in the past, specific card actually in the past, that has about the same casting cost, 5, and triggers fewer things when it happens. And what I'm talking about is Primal Command, right? So Primal Command can deal with 1 permanent, and similar to how this is destroying 1 creature, And then it might do something like gain 7 life. Gaining 7 life is not. It's better contextually than dealing 3 damage. But this is doing that and getting a card, right? And so I'm thinking, like, look, Primal Command won a lot of games on the back of that card. So this seems like real.
This
specific.
card looks like Primal Command to you?
It reminds me of Primal Command.
It reminds you of Primal Command?
It reminds me of Primal Command.
It reminds you of Primal Command.
Yeah.
Like, instead of 6 modes, this card has 1. And instead of all of the modes being good, this card has none of the modes are good.
Destroying a creature is good.
No, this one's only mode is destroy target creature. Angrath deals 3 damage to target player, and you may search your library and or graveyard for a card named Angrath Minotaur Pirate, reveal it, and put it in your hand, then shuffle your library. That's its only mode, and that's not worth 5.
So you're saying this doesn't remind you of Primal Command?
I don't know what it means, dude. No, dude. Like, I see what you're describing. Like, oh, they're a 5-cost sorcery that's a 2-for-1, and it impacts your life total. But, like, who cares? It's not in any way set up to behave like, it's not like it functions like, I'm not trying to hate on the idea. I'm not saying you should dismiss this card. I'm saying that, like, I don't go into looking at new cards with the intent of figuring out what I can dismiss. And so, like, I guess maybe my bar is a little different for what it's like for something to remind me of something else. I don't know. I think that you should follow your heart. If this card is calling to you, make it work. Standard right now has cards like the Scarab God and Glorybringer. Wow. So, like, when I look at a 5-cost sorcery from the Precon deck like this, and it lets me tutor up a 6-cost Planeswalker that, honestly, I don't think I'd pay 5 for. I'm not, like, really swayed very much. Like, if this was legal in if you could play this in Mercadian Mask block constructed along with Angrath, maybe we'd be talking a different story. That'd be kind of sweet.
I'm actually not sure what could beat that deck in Mercadian Mask construct. There weren't a lot of solutions to Planeswalkers back then.
No, it would have been good in that world.
Parallax Wave was the best creature removal spell.
So, like, why rule it out? I'm just saying that when I look at it, I'm not a rate scientist. I don't know. When I look at it, I just kind of imagine the rate, the efficiency, how much advantage you're getting. And maybe Primal Command is the one, but that wasn't the first thing that came to my mind. Well, the previews weren't exactly firing on all cylinders this week. I think preview season goes for real a little closer to the holidays. It's going to be a little bit still before the set. This is sort of like an early taste of things to come. The preview, like the spoilers we saw a week ago. There were some interesting decks this weekend, though. There were some big tournaments.
Yeah, two big tournaments at least.
Well, so the 3 at least, because there were 2 in over in Roanoke. There was both a big Modern Open as well as the Invitational.
Yeah, that's true. I played,
and then also Grand Prix. Yeah, how did they go for you?
I went 4-4 in the Invitational, that was not the greatest. I went, I think, 4-5 in the Modern Open, and then I went 4-3 in the Modern Classic, so I was exactly even on the weekend. That's terrible, okay. By the way. Exactly even. Just in case you were wondering, not proud of myself.
No, I don't know, man. You had some fun. You played hard. Both teams played hard, and it's just their team won this time.
Their team won over and over and over again. But it's okay. Yeah, I actually felt like I learned a lot.
Yeah? What'd you learn?
I really learned an admiration for this 8-rack deck, which I think is a deck that people know about because Tom Ross champions it, but it was just on fire. I think there were 3 copies in the top 8 of the Classic, for example. There was a cool Enduring Ideal deck that also made top 8 of the Classic. I actually lost to it in the Modern Open.
Wait, the Classic?
Yeah, and there was a Modern Classic. I thought that was also real interesting.
Oh, not the Modern Open.
Yeah,
I see.
And then,
because go ahead.
Oh, and then finally, I came to like some real harsh conclusion about Standard, like real harsh. I think I was at 1-1 at that point, playing next to Sam Black, who finished second in the Invitational, and I was playing. I'd won first round, then I lost a camera match, which was a blue-white approach mirror match, and I was playing a blue-white approach mirror match again in the third round, and Sam looks over and he kind of chuckles at me, and he says, the problem with that deck is, we decided that you just don't present a deck in sideboard games. And I felt
Which
kind
deck?
of blue-white approach. You don't even have a deck, and I was just like, that seems kind of harsh. I didn't hate at this point of the tournament. I thought I had a fairly clever sideboard, but in hindsight, I think that Sam is just right. That the sideboarding diversification that all the other decks are basically the threat deck for much of the game against approach, and then approach becomes a threat deck for a narrow window kind of after turn 7. They just present these threats that are so different, so difficult to like you have from the approach side. Let's say you're on this kind of default strategy that a lot of us have been using for a long time, which is like 4 Authority of the Councils and 3 Regal Caracols. That's your quote unquote package or your baseline package.
Well, no, not everybody is all in on Authority of the Councils like some people.
A lot of people, have this philosophy, right? Or play half of that, right? They play just 4 Regal Caracols maybe, or they're trying to bridge this way. That strategy is like just invalidated if the opponent can stick and keep the 3/3 red dinosaur, right? Like that strategy sucks now. I was really happy with my testing on Magic Online because I had discovered Wakening Sun's Avatar. I thought that was a great sideboard strategy against Temur and potentially Sultai because they're typically bringing in Negate to fight your Authority, to fight your Fumigates. It's like, well, I'm going to bring in this card which is not negatable, right? There's a twofold problem. One of them is they're actually often bringing in Essence Scatter, even though you don't have any creatures in main deck, because they have so much creature removal. Essence Scatter is just better than this dead creature removal they have, because people are often bringing in cards like Torrential Gear Hulk against them. So they have text. And then separately, it's just bad if you're playing against Sam's sideboard strategy, which is to bring in a bunch of Planeswalkers, right? Like if people are like Lifecrafters, Bestiary, and Planeswalkers is their sideboard strategy, like a strategy just doubling down on sweepers is... you're just going to lose, right? They're actually going to outcard you. And it was like I just felt, and I didn't play any Standard after I went 1-3 in Standard in the Invitational, but I was just like super down on this decision I'd made. I was like, I can't believe I didn't see it ahead of time. It was if there's one thing I'd take away and throw out there, it's unless you find something that nobody else has found so far, cannot recommend approach in Standard. That's blue-white approach anyway. No, sir.
Yeah, my biggest problem with blue-white approach is that it's not, an energy deck where you're just playing like Temur energy or 4-color energy.
Like the energy is just all this extra, right? Like you have these cards that are just fundamentally good. They're already good, right? Then on top of that, you have this entire extra resource that other people don't have. Like the approach deck has energy counters because they play Glimmer of Genius, but does literally nothing with them. But yeah, I continue to like my modern deck. I went 3-1 in the Invitational, even if I only just basically even Steven in the Saturday and Sunday tournaments. But just
you enjoy it.
No, I mean, like, days that you run hot, you never lose a game, right? And then days that you run medium, you go medium.
That's your explanation?
I did not play perfectly. I'll be the first person to say I did not play perfectly.
I'm just saying you registered a Lava Spike deck, man.
I did.
The math is against you.
I am one with the spike, Patrick. I love the spike.
I know you do.
Ike.
So the modern format has continued to kind of produce some interesting stuff besides just all lava spike decks. For instance, did you happen to see the blue-white control deck that Jeffrey Ashkin used? He top 16 to the Open this past weekend.
Yes, I did see that deck.
With 4 Spreading Seas and 4 Field of Ruins, it seemed like there was at least a little bit of stuff that you might appreciate on the land. The denial aspect, the disruption aspect.
Yeah, I can't get behind 3 Cryptic Commands, but I like a lot of the stuff that's going on in this deck. I think the Crucible of Worlds aspect of the deck is really cool.
Out of the sideboard?
Yeah, I think that there's some folks I've seen on Magic Online who are main decking the Crucible of Worlds. Like, if you've got, Field of Ruin, if you've got Flooded Strand, just having Crucible of Worlds in play it's an engine in and of itself, right?
Well, plus Search for Azcanta.
Yeah.
When you're Search for Azcanta-ing, you're going to be flipping over, like you look at the top card, you're like, oh, I don't want this land. Oh, what do you know? Instead, I have a Crucible of Worlds.
I think it's cool, and I think there's a lot of interesting stuff going on with it. Obviously, this is a deck that's got multiple different kinds of Gideon, so it's got both Gideon Jura and Gideon of the Trials, so it's one of the few decks that can say, get a Gideon of the Trials out, hit that Gideon emblem, and then play like 2 different Gideon, pieces of cardboard, which makes it, twice as difficult for the opponent to kill you. Just for sake of argument, if you've got Gideon Jura in play, and you have previously created a Gideon of the Trials emblem, one of these you can't, Platinum Angel can't lose the game emblems. There are a lot of decks that have an incredibly difficult time of ever destroying the 5 casting cost Gideon, right? Like, it can't be Abrupt Decayed, for example, if your opponent is playing the Artifact Prison deck. So, like,
yep.
how are, like, if you have the ability to go +2, increasing its loyalty by 2 every turn, regardless of what they're doing, like, beating that with a Pyrite Spellbomb, for example, is a daunting task. I'm not sure how you pull that off.
Yeah, it's not necessarily going to be easy, but they might have deserved it if they're playing, stuff like spell bombs. Although, actually, there was a pretty sweet spell bomb deck this weekend. Ali Antrazi, back again, this time a 17th finish, just barely out of the top 16. 17th place finish at the Modern Open with a fresh take on Lantern Control. One that Sam Black seems to be very, very high on, but it's 4 Whir of Invention is the twist.
Yep.
He's also got a toolbox with like Pyrite Spellbomb, Pyxis of Pandemonium, Witchbane Orb, 1 Grafdigger's Cage main deck, a Ghoul Caller's Bell, which is actually, like, it sounds like it's funny to describe that as a bullet, but it does come up sometimes. Like the fact that it's not targeting.
Yeah, so if the opponent has a ley line, right?
Right.
I think that the Whir of Invention, which is, also kind of buddies with Inventor's Fair in its way, which would allow you to get the Witchbane Orb, is an important aspect of this strategy right now. Because there's a variety of situations where you might want to have that Witchbane Orb. So Witchbane Orb is a 4 casting cost artifact. When Witchbane Orb enters the battlefield, destroy all curses attached to you, and then you have hexproof. There's not a lot of curses, I think, that people play. There are some curses, but not a lot. But this is basically a Leyline of Sanctity that is an artifact that you actually would have to pay for. But it not only protects you from burn spells or from discard spells, but it can do stuff like flip a Form of the Dragon, right? So if the opponent's got a Form of the Dragon in play, Witchbane Orb creates for a very interesting game state.
Yeah. I mean, and the idea of getting the Witchbane Orb at instant speed is kind of interesting too.
Yeah.
Like obviously if Whir of Invention is getting it then. But Sam actually finished second in the Invitational, going undefeated in Swiss with his version of the Whir of Invention deck. Not too much different, although it is notable, multiple Pithing Needles main deck. And then he plays a little bit less of the Turbo Mill. Like he's playing a little bit more, right? Like he's got 4 Codex Shredders, and then I guess he doesn't play the Ghoul Caller's Bell, though. Interesting. Yeah, just 4 Codex Shredders and 2 Pyxis of Pandemoniums. But how much do you like the Tezzeret Agent Ebola sideboard plan?
I like it. It's got a secondary thing that you can do. Like this deck is, I think it gets a bad rap for being one-dimensional, right? Even though its one dimension is quite varied, right? It's quite lockdown and killing at the same time. It is still one-dimensional. So Tezzeret gives you a second dimension, right? It gives you a thing that you can do if you haven't completely locked down the game. It also gives you something to do with these sit-there artifacts that might otherwise just be sitting there while you're locking down the game.
Yeah. It's hard to take too seriously the idea of running back Lantern 2 weeks in a row. Just because, it doesn't take very many Ancient Grudges and stuff before your life just gets a lot worse.
Yeah.
But you're not scared?
I think that, I watched Sam play a medium amount of Modern. Adrian Sullivan was there. He was also playing Lantern, and presumably they communicated before the tournament. There are things that are great about this deck, and there are things that, this is the definition of a deck that has a completely unwinnable situations that it could be playing in, right? So, for example, Adrian was just playing against regular Tron in one of the matches I was watching on day one. There's nothing you can do to stop the opponent from just tutoring for an Ulamog and then casting the Ulamog, right? So it's just going to be in their hand. You maybe you Thoughtseize them, right? But they have typically you're playing empty-handed at this point in the game. They have all kinds of stuff that's just go look for this or play this, and then you can look for this. And then they cast it, and they just destroy your machinery, including, Adrian had to get an ensnaring bridge in the game I was watching, and I was just what do you need? He's what could I have done, right? Maybe he'll mess up and not kill the ensnaring bridges. I have no other play. That was, that's that.
Yeah. I'll tell you, though, I do like to see Mishra's Bauble back in action.
I mean, you've got to have the softest spot for Tezzeret Agent of Bolus, right? Was that your 5th top?
The softest spot? Dude, I don't know.
So many. Lost count.
Yeah, I have no idea. But Tezzeret is a sweet card with all these cheap artifacts, and having that as a backup plan for your sideboard, I don't hate that.
Yeah, I think that one of the things that I think people reasonably can criticize the Lantern Control or Artifact Prison deck is that it plays all these artifacts and it puts them into play, and they're so cheap, right? There's a bunch of them are 1, a bunch of them are 0, and all together, if you have certain of them in play, you put your opponent in lockdown. But a lot of the time, they're just this thing that's sitting there, right? And they just don't do anything. So you're just drawing these cards that don't really advance your game at all until they're coming together. And the deck doesn't lace things together, the way that a blue combo deck might.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not really always so smooth. Sometimes there's a lot of sitting around and both players seeing what they draw, or sometimes you're like, man, my hand sure has 3 lanterns in it.
Yeah, I mean, it's you're just play out your welding jar, maybe it'll have some efficacy later in the game, but just right now, it's just the thing that caused 0, that you're just moving from the zone your hand to the zone the battlefield.
What I want to know is what you're playing in Vintage these days, man. Have you played any Vintage recently?
I think the last time I played Vintage was with you at Grand Prix Milwaukee that you came in second. which was in 2002, I want to say. I think that's the last time I gamed Vintage.
2002?
Is that 2002?
It wasn't even Vintage then, was it?
No.
Wasn't that like Type 1?
I'm just saying, like, you had a Vintage deck that you were playing, or whatever, Type 1, that you were playing in between
That's
rounds
not the same thing.
on the way to seconding the Grand Prix. That's the last time I touched a Vintage card.
They don't make Type 1 like they used to, man.
I think you were playing a Mask deck. I don't really understand. But your rule was...
The Illusionary Mask?
Yeah.
With the Phyrexian Dreadnought?
Like, your rule was if anybody casts Yawgmoth's Will, the game ends. So I just cast a value Yawgmoth's Will at some point. You're letting me play, and you're like, game ends. I'm like, well, no, I'm just using this for value. You're like, no. Rule is somebody casts a Yawgmoth's Will, game ends. Pick up the cards.
Weird. What a harsh rule.
You are a harsh mentor. Harsh mentor.
So it's been interesting seeing sort of the evolution of Vintage with people only having one Monastery Mentor now. You know, like that's a pretty substantial sort of upheaval to the format, which I'm sure a lot of folks at home are used to playing. You know, like who hasn't been playing Vintage lately? But like, I'm curious your thoughts on the possibility of Dak Faden ever porting over to like Modern or Standard. Is there any way that do you think they really could ever print Dak Faden in a Standard legal set?
Probably not. I don't know.
That's the 1 blue-red for a 3, so 3 mana for a Planeswalker with 3 loyalty. It's +1 ability. Target player draws 2 cards, then discards 2 cards. His -2 ability is gain control of target artifact. And his -6 ability is you get an emblem with whenever you cast a spell that targets 1 or more permanents, gain control of those permanents.
So the big pull here is that it's a 3 casting cost Planeswalker, right? So, and then the -2, is that's the show?
Yeah, well, to some degree. Like, it's nice that for only 3 mana, you get a permanent control magic for their artifact that also leaves you with a Planeswalker. And the Planeswalker is not too shabby. You know, like, getting to Faithless Looting for free every turn is real good.
I think that Dak Faden is also kind of a product of its presumed context that it's played in, right? Like, if people were playing like high off, like, traditional offense decks, like in formats with Dak Faden, he'd probably be less attractive, right?
Well, I mean, a lot
house artifacts.
Well, I mean, I don't know, like a lot of people play things like Juggernaut or whatever, some kind of like artifact creatures that are good to steal.
Yeah, but those are artifact creatures, right? Like if people were just playing, I don't know, Wild Mongrel or something. Maybe Zach would be less attractive.
So, do you think, like, if this card was reprinted, do you think this card would show up in Modern?
At least in sideboards, I think, right? So, I think that there's a fair amount of, like, just for the sake of argument, right? If you look at Sam's Modern deck, he's got Search for His Content in his sideboard, which is not particularly synergistic with his deck. It's just a good card that gives you some selection and value over time. I think that there's always been a market for random recurring sources of value or efficiency, and I think Dak could definitely fill a role there. In addition, I think that there are matchups where it'd be really attractive, right? For example, there are people whose top end is Wormcoil Engine, right? Like 3 mana, take your Wormcoil Engine in a blue deck, where, you could have a Remand or a Mana Leak up at the point that you just cast Dak, take their Wormcoil Engine or, equivalent kind of big guy. That's pretty cool, right? That's the equivalent of a Threads of Disloyalty for their 6-drop. You get tons of additional value if they interact with it, and then you still got a permanent that's going to be, 2x a Search for His Content for the next couple of turns.
Man, can you imagine playing Dak Faden in a that liquid metal coating combo deck?
Ooh,
like if you have liquid metal coating and Saheeli, you're doing it. right? Like that's the combo that you can turn Saheeli into an artifact, and then you can make a Saheeli copy of Saheeli, and you can just do this over and over and over and over and over again, and get like an unlimited number of triggers of stuff going to the graveyard or whatever. Well, if you've got liquid metal coating already in your deck, if you just go turn 2 liquid metal coating, turn 3 Dak Faden, you can like start stealing stuff immediately.
Yeah, that's really cool. I kind of always have loved these decks. Like, I assume if you're going to play this liquid metal coating deck, you're probably just main decking cards like Ancient Grudge or Shattering Spree, something like that, because it's just too clean, right? Like, if you're like liquid metal coating your awesome permanent, Ancient Grudge it, liquid metal coating your, next permanent flashback Ancient Grudge, that seems...
It's like main decking Pyroblasts in your Painter's Servant deck.
Yeah, so I've always loved those decks because, and any kind of examples like this, because they work when your strategy is working, but then sometimes you just get like these random free wins. Like, do you remember when there was? You're the first person I know who ever played Snap, right? Like, you played Snap Cradle, but I remember there was like this whole time in Extended where Snap Combo was one of the decks, and then like Reanimator's a deck on the other side of the table. The Reanimator deck just I'm gonna go play my gigantic dump my hand to cast a Verdant Force or whatever, and I was like, all right, snap it on tap, cast an Impulse. I just love the freebies that you get even when your own combo isn't online. So let's switch back to Standard to close it out, Patrick.
Yeah.
So I actually wanted to call out a deck from the World Magic Cup, top 4 deck from Germany. Just wanted to see what you thought. Standard deck by Mark Tobiasz. So the rules in how to build your standard deck for the team standard format are a little bit different, right? So we would have just automatically seen some compromises in some of these deck lists. For example, Germany played both Ramming Up Red and Mardu vehicles, so there's some constrictions on which red cards each deck could play, right? Like, for example, the Ramming Up Red deck couldn't have any Magma Sprays in deck or sideboard because the Magma Sprays were in the Martyred Vehicles deck. The reason I think that Tobiasz's deck is interesting to talk or think about is he's playing a 4-color deck. It's they called it at Daily MTG, they called it 4-colored control.
I don't know. This is pretty transparently just a 4-color energy deck.
It is, right? But look at his card choices are real interesting. This deck has no Servant of the Conduit and no Longtusk Cub, right? Like, that's different to me. He's got instead, like, and there's no pressure from the other decks to keep him from playing Longtusk Cub or Servant of the Conduit. Just didn't play them.
Yeah, I think partially just because of the expectation that everybody was going to have a mono red deck and everybody was going to have a Longtusk Cub Servant of the Conduit deck. And so they were expecting a lot of shocks, a lot of, basically, I think they're taking a gamble that they're trying to sidestep the sort of shock Longtusk Cub dance. Now, I personally don't know how much you're accomplishing if you do that and you have a Glint Sleeve Siphoner already.
Yeah, that's what I would say. He's got 4 Glint Sleeve Siphoner and 4 Rogue Refiner, right? So both of those cards are very shockable. So
I don't know, man. This just seems like a worse energy deck without Longtusk Cub.
Yeah, I mean, I think Longtusk Cub is one of the strongest cards in Standard, so I would tend to agree with you. But I would point out that Tobiasz has got 3 copies of Torrential Gearhulk in his main deck, which is also a very powerful card in Standard. And he's got all these instants that he can buy back with him. He's got 4 Fatal Push, 3 Harness Lightning. I don't know if I can get behind in any way, shape, or form, but we'll move on from that. 3 Harness Lightning, 3 Vraska's Contempt, 3 Essence Scatter, 2 Supreme Will, and 2 Glimmer of Genius. So his deck does have some very different high-end capabilities, including buying Black Glimmer of Genius in attrition battles that you just wouldn't expect from a Teamer Energy or 4-color energy deck. Yeah,
no, definitely a little bit exotic of a build. nice to see, even if everybody's kind of priced into energy, that there's a little bit of mixing it up among the energy decks.
But you wouldn't consider playing this in an open format, this version?
Oh, I don't know. I would always consider it. I haven't played with it. I would test it. Depends how much time I had. I could see. I mean, it's got some interesting choices. It doesn't seem obviously bad. I don't know.
No, it's very different,
Yeah, I'd want to understand better. I'd want to play some games and understand better where he's coming from before jumping to conclusions and being so sure that I get it.
Yeah, I love Gonti. So Gonti is real powerful.
Oh yeah,
but I am a little puzzled why you would have Gonti and not Hostage Taker.
Because if Gonti dies, you still have the thing.
All right.
I mean, that's the theory, right?
Yeah, but Taker is so... I mean, when Taker is good, Taker is really good, right? When Gonti's like always just like, it's typically bad when you're under pressure and it's very overpowered when you're winning. But, Taker is just, it can stop a Hazoret, right? It can... okay, that Hazoret's going to kill me. Oh, wait. I got you, buddy, right? So, yeah, I just thought, there's not so much innovation in Standard, but I thought that Tobiash's deck was, demonstrably different enough to throw a mention out there.
Dude, I can't wait. If only they just ban Rogue Refiner or Attune with Ether and we kind of just get on with it, There's all this stuff.
I think you might be right. That Attune with Ether, it's like a Preordain. If a Preordain or a Ponder... If those kind of cards are bannable, then I think this one got to be up for consideration at least.
Mm-hmm. All right, man. I'm looking forward to the spoiler season. Let's see when they start dropping the non-pre-con ones. I want to see something on the level of the Immortal Sun or that weirdo Tetsumak Primal Death that we talked about.
Oh my god, the black dinosaur.
Yeah.
Oh, that card was. I think you said it best. If that card's not good in Standard, something's wrong.
Heaven help us all.
But anybody who wants to make sure that they can join us when such spoilers come out for future episodes, go hit us up, subscribe on iTunes, or follow us on the Facebook or on the Twitter. Or our website, we're Top Level Podcast, toplevelpodcast.com on all those places. And, of course, Michael J's favorite place to follow us, which is Patreon. So we're Top Level Podcast there, too. This week, we would like to shout out and thank David Brannon.
Thank you, David. Major props, man.
And I'd like to thank Patrick for spending time with me every week to talk about Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, I know.
Life didn't work so great. Tried to play Dredge, it's a jail or hate. Ghostly prison waiting for my untapped phase. Your core trapped in amber stasis state. Lost a lot of friends, got left behind. Had to find a way not to lose my mind. Trapped in a vault with nothing but time. Parents and my friends were the key to find. Magic gave me purpose and drive. The game, the love.